This is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
Tonight's song is Polaris from My Hero Academia. It is an Japanese anime. On that day, I decided to protect you. That promise still remains in my heart. Even I must lose everything I have to save a life in front of me. This is the first time I've ever felt I won't hide my scars anymore. Making the despair as my weapon, that's how I want to live my life. Aside these tears, the best as I can, I'll give you everything that I have. Please don't give up on me and disappear. On that day, I decided to protect you. That promise still remains in my heart. The reason I'm still alive and fighting now was because someone else risked their life for me. I'm not afraid of losing anymore because I don't end up winning. I'll never run away ever again. I just want to be the person I want to be. Even if this is meaningless to everyone else, I'm fine as long as I can see you smile. True strength is not about for standing at the top. It's for being able to protect and hold on to your dear ones. Even I must lose everything, I'll never forget about you. Push aside these tears the best as I can. I'll give you everything that I have. So please don't give up on me and disappear. On that day, I decided to protect you. That promise still remains in my heart. Even if the light is fading away, just go. My listeners must be wondering why, of all sports, am I watching cricket? Well, I'm not watching cricket because I have any interest in the sport. I'm watching cricket because of the timings. Football matches start at 1 a.m. in the morning. No way I'm going to get up at 1 a.m. and watch the football match in a groggy state of mind. I can watch the highlights, of course, and then every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning, along with my entertainment called WWE, I also watch the various NBA matches. As you know, the NBA matches have restarted, they're all being played at the same venue. Even the MLB, the Major League Baseball matches have started. But for now, let's discuss this ubiquitous sport. So it's a combination of three matches, and in the first match, England defeated their opposition by chasing a total of 280 plus. And now, in their second match, they had a rather sad news that Ben Stokes, their talisman, their main player, the player who brings about the attitude in the team, that aggressive nature, that ruthless aggression which made England win the World Cup over 14 months ago. This player, Ben Stokes, has left the building for personal reasons. He won't be part of the team anymore, means he's broken the bubble. And you know, once the player breaks the bubble, this was after taking the requisite permission, you cannot enter the bubble again, which means that when Stokes returns from his personal trip, he will have to undergo the 14-15 day quarantine again. He has gone to visit his family in New Zealand for personal reasons, but this was done legally. Means he took the permission, he broke the bubble, he left that secure environment, which will not become a big deal simply because it was all done in public view, compared to the Jofra Archer situation, in which he, without telling broke the bubble, went to his home, and then put everyone under scrutiny and then put everyone under danger, as the term is, which means that now the players can no longer enjoy the freedom that they have, that they used to have. Now they are under strict quarantine rules, they are under surveillance all the time. As you know, the WADA and the NADA, that means the World Anti-Doping Association and the various national anti-doping associations already have a whereabouts clause, and then add the strictness associated with the whole quarantine and the biosecure protocol. Won't be a surprise if sports is one profession young individuals will never want to get into. Those who are already playing have to continue till they retire or they are injured. Till the time a certain individual can play the sport, they will play the sport even if it means being under strict detention and quarantine rules. But if a new individual, that is a fresh school graduate or a fresh college graduate, wants to think about playing a sport, they will think twice because it's no longer as simple as it used to be. If the pressures of being suspended when you test positive for barbiturates and steroids, as in the context of the doping situation, is not enough, you cannot be positive even while having the flu, means the players have to have a negative situation all the time. They cannot test positive either for this imaginary flu or for consuming barbiturates, which helps them survive the tough environment of a sports match. Those who have spent time in hostels must have known that there was a curfew time, means you cannot leave the hostel or the lodging premises after a certain hour, or you cannot go unattended beyond the walls of the lodging and the hostel. The same situation is with the players. If the players sneak out into the public areas, that is, they break the protocol, they break all the quarantine rules, they will be isolated, they will be detained, they will be sent to solitary confinement. Won't be a surprise if a few sports person can carry out this strict quarantine rules for a while, but it won't be a surprise if sports athletes, irrespective of which sport it is, whether it's a combat sport, whether it's a team sport, whether it's an individual sport, they think of retiring. But the troubles do not end even if a player retires. Supposedly, if a player retires and wants to take up the broadcasting roles, which means they had to go through the entire process of being quarantined, isolated, and a separate bubble for them, which means that the broadcasters cannot talk to the sports person face to face. They have to talk through a virtual, faceless, artificial medium. But if you know that the sports commentators have their own protocols, have their own rules. So if a sports person decides that I will retire tonight or tomorrow and I will take up the art of commentating because I have enough experience in this particular sport, well, it won't be a smooth transition. It will be as complicated as it was, but they won't be under scrutiny. They won't be under the camera, under the public eye. They will have to follow the rules, but if they break it, it will not make much of a difference as it does to sports players who willingly or unwillingly break these detention and quarantine rules. But for now, let's get back to this whole Stokes situation. As you know, Ben Stokes has legally left the building. He may not be admitted again. He's gone for the next 14 to 15 days, which means that if he returns early, then he will have to go through that 14-15 day isolation period and he will have to test negative before he is admitted. which means that it doesn't matter what your status as a player is, how important you are. In the light of all this pandemic melodrama, you are all the same. Let's look at some of the headlines in the newspaper and see what the media reacted, how the media reacted when they learned that Stokes was legally leaving the building. Headline number one: Selection issues cloud England in Stokes' absence. Stokes' absence puts England on tricky turf. England out of Stokes for second test versus Pakistan. What is the crux of this entire story? In short, Ben Stokes is not playing, which means that England don't have that all-rounder option. That is what these newspapers are trying to say. Well, I disagree. There are two parts to this story. Yes, Ben Stokes for the past 8 years has influenced not only his team but the passive and the active stakeholders, that he is a crucial link to the team. Without him, the team does feel the absence. He has done everything he can, but to say that without Stokes, the England team cannot go about their natural business of competing against the opposition, saying that without Stokes, the England team have no chance of playing well, this is one thing I vehemently disagree with, because then this is an insult to the other all-rounders in the team. Who was the all-rounder who eventually took the team to victory? It wasn't Stokes, it was Vokes. If you remember, technically in the first match, Stokes did not contribute much to the team. He did take a couple of wickets, but as a batter, he did not contribute much. And yes, it was a one-off situation. Can't expect him to make hundreds after hundreds in every match. Opening paragraph of this newspaper says that England may have won the series opener against Pakistan, but the absence of Ben Stokes leaves it with a selection headache. This basically means that, according to this newspaper or to the so-called expert sports analyst, without Stokes, England has no chance. But I disagree. It means that you're not respecting the efforts of the other players in the team. It means that we create this halo around one person, as we do often with the flukes of the 70s and the 80s, that we do not see beyond them. We are blinded by it. We ourselves create this bubble and then we are blinded by it. Well, let me tell you, if Stokes had not left the bubble for personal reasons, he would have surely not played in the second match, at least for the fitness reasons, because the commentators kept reiterating that this guy is injured. But the fact is, he is not playing. There is no point going back. Are there equally competent players who can take his position and contribute? Yes. Effectively, Stokes' exclusion meant the England team made two changes. It meant that Zach Crawley came back into the team and they left out Jofra Archer for another all-rounder. Of course, the premise is that we are including and excluding players because we don't want them to burn out so easily. And Jofra Archer, someone who bowls over 90 kilometers per hour, will have to be treated very delicately because of the fragile nature of a bowler bowling at 90 miles per hour. This is a situation which works both ways. This is an opportunity for someone like Sam Curran to seal his legacy. If he can take the wickets, score the runs, it will help the team. And now the team has an extra batter and the two all-rounders along with the spinner. So, do I agree with the headlines meted out by the various newspapers? No, because as I said, it puts an insult on the other players. It gives the impression that the other players cannot do what this guy has done, that the other players not in the book of these newspapers and the people who make the headlines, that they are not good enough. So do I disagree with the headlines? Of course. Ideal headline should have been Stokes' absence gives opportunity to other all-rounders to showcase their skills. Strange when we say that it's a grueling schedule. We don't want players to be injured. We don't want players to test positive either for the flu or for the steroids. And the analysis is that with so much restrictions in sport, irrespective of which sport it is, whether it's a combat sport in wrestling, boxing, mixed martial arts, karate, taekwondo, etc. It's a team sport in basketball, football, hockey, cricket, and other such sports, or it's an individual sport in athletics, tennis, table tennis, or even chess, with so much of restrictions that a player should not get injured, a player should not break the bubble, should remain inside the quarantine, should remain in solitary confinement if found breaking the quarantine and the other biosecurity protocols. Looking at all this, maybe sports is not the ideal profession for young individuals to pursue, at least for a while. That I noticed his eyes very much, my attention being riveted on his teeth. He had an excellent set and was bearing them, and all I had ever heard of his tendency to bite first and ask questions afterwards passed through my mind in a flash. Hence the leap for life. The Woosters are courageous, but they do not take chances. Pop Bassett was plainly nonplussed, and it was only when his gaze too fell upon Bartholomew that he abandoned what must have been its original theory that Bertram had cracked under the strain and would do well to lose no time in seeing a good mental specialist. He eyed Bartholomew coldly and addressed him as if he had been up before him in his police coat. Go away, sir. Lie down, sir. Go away, he said, rasping, if that's the word. Well, I could have told him that you can't talk to an Aberdeen terrier in that tone of voice for, except perhaps for Doberman pinschers. There is no breed of dog quicker to take offense. Really, the way my niece allows this infernal animal to roam at large about the house, I suppose he was about to say, but the word remained unspoken. It was a moment for rapid action, not for speech. The gargling noise had increased in volume, and Bartholomew was flexing his muscles and getting underway. He moved, he stirred, he seemed to feel the rush of life along his keel, as the fellow said, and Pop Bassett, with a lissomness of which I could have not suspected him, took to himself the wings of the dove and floated down beside me on the chest. Whether he clipped a second or two of my time, I cannot say, but I rather think he did. This ends episode number 247 on the 14th of August 2020, and wishing my listeners a happy Independence Day, though the irony of the word is not lost on us in the contemporary times, where we have heard the campaign stay at home, stay at home, stay at home.
For more awesome content, tune in to the next episode of the weekly show with Aditya.